This is AC Lockyer, the professional business guide. I'm a third-generation service business entrepreneur, national champion professional fisherman, and serial entrepreneur. Each week, I'm going to invite some of my friends and other influencers in the business industry to talk about leadership, building sales teams, and other topics to help you win and find your true north.
Hey guys, this is AC Lockyer, and tonight on the podcast, I have Mr. Chris Gingrasso with me. Some people just call him, when you have such a cool last name, you can just be called Gingrasso. And one of my friends, Mr. Dan Holland, used to tell me about this guy, Gingrasso. Even before I knew Chris, Gingrasso this and Gingrasso that. I'm like, who's this Gingrasso guy? I got to meet him. And I finally got a chance to meet Mr. Chris Gingrasso, working in a ministry together that we both worked on for a while together, and got a chance to meet him. And our lives didn't intersect, they kind of collided. And we've got some great history together, and been able to do a lot of things, including a cool little project we'll talk about tonight called the Wow Factor. And but Chris, for all of our viewers out there, everybody that's listening to this podcast right now, why don't you go ahead and tell us who Chris Gingrasso is? Give me that 5 to 8 minute, story about who you are.
Sure. Raised in a little town in Wisconsin. My dad was a printer. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and then they got a dryer. And she had to get a job to pay for the dryer. So she got a little job as a person that worked in a bakery of a little store. And then, of course, she retired 18 years later. I thought, how much was that machine? It was crazy. But I remember growing up in the 60s and then into the 70s. And, just that small town little thing. Started doing magic as a teenager and started doing it professionally. And that became my life. When I was 17, my senior year in high school, my kind of a second father to me died of a massive heart attack at a cottage. And that was kind of the day that I got a spiritual awakening, realizing that all the fame and fortune and the money and everything I was seeking was meaningless compared to the reality of that. And so that took me on a little different path. Ended up going to school.
Because you actually did professional magic shows.
Yeah,
on a big produced scale. Magic shows on a big scale.
Yeah. Still do some stuff, I love to do a lot of mental stuff and things, but and that changed the trajectory of my life. Actually then became a minister, went into youth ministry and did that a couple of places, and for whatever reason started getting a lot of opportunities to speak here and there, and actually I went on the road full time and started traveling like all the time. Got to a place I was doing 300 days a year. It was kind of goofy.
Wow.
Different, every denomination. I mean, seriously, it was crazy. But I always had this background of business. There was just kind of lurking there, because I guess I was running a business. Well, we had a staff. We were looking at buying an airplane because I couldn't keep up, and was teaching at a university in Minneapolis, and just had some personal challenges. My marriage crumbled, and it was, I guess I was gone a little too much, and just everything fell apart. That was back in the early 90s, and everything just fell apart. I thought, what the world just happened? So I just had to rebuild, and started rebuilding, and married Miss Fitness Arkansas. You've met Heather. She's my rock, and we've been married over 20 years now, and I have 5 kids. Believe it or not, we're actually in the process of adopting our 5th child.
Wow.
Oh, I know. So ages 30 to 18 months, just the way I planned it in high school. They all have different moms, but it's just true. But, I got into business a while back and got into sales, and I started realizing, wow, I not only like this, I'm really good at this,
Sure.
And it just became a love of mine, and got into flooring business. Why the floors? Because I didn't care what business it was, and I realized that everyone had one, so I might as well do that. And it took me into that, and then being a factory rep, and did that for many years. Got into some other business with marketing and the communication side of things as well. And so that's kind of been the story of my life. But now, this summer I'm going to be 55 years old, and I've made it, I've lost it, I'm making it back. And I think now my focus is just to help and equip others to be a better version of themselves. And if I can do that, then I put my head on the pillow every night and feel pretty good.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So that's
very,
kind of
very
my
cool.
story.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. What I've always liked about you, Chris, is a lot of times people that have what I would call a varied resume, have done a lot of things in their life, generally have done a lot of things in their life because they weren't that good or they weren't that disciplined, and they just kind of bounced around from career to career and job to job and burned their bridges. You've been like really, really wildly successful everywhere you've landed. You've left a dent anywhere you've landed. And you've done
sometimes
a great job.
it wasn't a good dent though.
Yeah. I mean, even in the short time that a lot of people don't know this, but you actually worked for one of my businesses, Soft Wash Systems, back about 2-3 years ago. Gosh, it may have been longer than that now.
Yeah, it was longer. We're actually,
it's like 4 years ago now.
4.5 years ago, yeah. I'm in my 5th year.
Holy smokes.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's cool because the shirt still fits. You haven't gained any weight. You actually came and spoke at one of our conventions this year and wore your Soft Wash System shirt. You kept that, and it still fit. You hadn't gained any weight or anything, in 4.5 years. But you leave an impact everywhere you go. It's because you have a very big, vivacious personality. You are very much so in a lot of the things that you've done, from being a magician to being a pastor, youth minister. Even in sales, you're that consummate front man, and you represent, whether you're representing God or you're representing a product line or you're performing or producing your own magic shows, you're representing a brand when you do that. Yeah. And it's not shocking or surprising to me that you've ended up where you have landed, where you have, with this large flooring company that you work with, is literally millions and millions and millions of dollars a quarter. It's just unbelievable, the numbers that they turn. Yeah. And that you're a huge producer. You actually, this year at y'all's national convention, won an award. Tell me about the award that you won.
Yeah. So our company that I worked for got acquired by Shaw. It was a Warren Buffett company. And so we do about $6 billion a year. It's kind of crazy, and the largest carpet mill in the world.
That's that's a billion with a B. You didn't say million. You said
I did say B with a billion. Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot going on. Yeah, but we're diversified, which brings some stability, which is cool. But for me, the guy that's our executive vice president, he's from Belgium, and every year he wears red pants at Christmas time. It's a big deal for him. It's a tradition, and it's his way of saying, you're powerful, you stand out, it's good. I almost sound like Arnold, but I'm trying to sound like me.
That didn't sound very Belgian.
Get down now, that's how yeah. So, but he's from Belgium, and he wants people to make a difference. So kind of like what you said, make a dent. And so he's been watching me for 4 years, and last year, one of the regional VPs got an award. It was called the Red Pants Award, and it's a society. It's forever. It's the highest award in our company, and it's a forever thing, and allows you to come to the Christmas party every year, no matter if you're working for the company or not. And so, I'll give you. Last year, it was the COO that retired this year. It was also to give the 3 awards, 3 people. It was the regional vice president that had been #1 in sales for 10 years in a row in the country.
Wow.
And then it was his business partner that had been with him for over a decade and was retiring that year. And so that was last year. So I was, who's can do this? So another executive vice president wins the award, and another one of the VPs got an award. And then I'm in the audience not paying attention really. I'm talking to people, and all of a sudden he's telling the story about an author of several books and different things. And as a foster parent, I'm like, whoa. And I had that weird moment, like, I think he's talking to me.
Yes.
And he called me up there, and what an honor to be in front of my 2,000 peers out there to get that. And it's a place of honor and a place of influence, but it's also a place of responsibility.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And when someone says, you know, you're making a difference, then, I mean, for me, it didn't give me a big head. It gave me a more steadfast walk, and realizing that every move I make will impact people because they've allowed it to. And that, to me, it's responsibility.
And it's not just a top producer award. It's somebody that's making a difference through also too serving people. It's really where your company's trying to create a company culture of servant leadership and recognizing those people and putting you all up as an example in the organization to mirror those behaviors to other people in the company.
Well said. Yeah, you know, you can be a top producer by stepping on people.
Right.
You know, crushing them and being an absolute jerk. And it's like, that's not what they're after. Because, I mean, numbers are important, but not more important than people.
No, for sure.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I don't have the red pants on now, by the way. It doesn't match my shirt.
Well, a lot of us, because, you know, of Zoom and working with COVID-19 and everything else, a lot of us don't want to stand up and show what we're wearing. You know, they call it, instead of, you remember the mullet? You know, the mullet was, business in the front, party in the back.
Yeah.
So in this era of
Good
COVID-19, it's business on the top, party on the bottom.
Chilly in here.
That's right. So you don't want to all of a sudden stand up and reach to grab something on your desk. You know, you might show your Purple Heart boxers or something like that.
Oh man, that's good.
So all seriousness, you know, we look at your life and everything, and you know, you've received this award, and you look back at all the things you've done. You know, and even myself, I look back at. You sometimes have these Forrest Gump kind of stories that you're like, I don't even know how that happened. You know, you think back and you go, that even I wouldn't believe that story or that thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
How God aligned the star and the moons and the seas and the tides and everything, and this thing happened in your life. It seems like God uses people a lot, and when you look at some of the heroes of the Bible, they have these incredible heights, and then they have some of these incredible crashes. And you shared some of your crashes with me, and there's some of them that aren't necessarily great for this type of audience, so we don't need to talk about all the crashes.
I've done some crashes, yeah.
Yeah, you've had some crashes. There are some really hairy, bloody crashes. But what a lot of people don't realize is our lives, sometimes we play them out like a highlight reel. Look at all the junk I've done. Look at how incredible I am. But we all screw up. And your book, The Edge, talks about that, talks about people that have been given a tremendous amount of responsibility, a tremendous amount of talent. We go out there, we put that talent and that responsibility, we take it seriously. We go out there and we start working, and we get blinders on. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the wheels fall off. We find ourselves in places or situations we don't need to be in, and that's called the edge. And you could fall off of the edge, or you can get back down the middle of the road. So tell me about this book. Show everybody this book. Let's talk about the edge right now, because I think people don't realize that incredible, impactful, leave a dent in the world leaders screw up a lot too, and need people in their lives to keep them on the straight and narrow. So let's talk about the edge.
Yeah, I wrote it for me. It was part of my healing, and I also wrote it for my wife as a confession. Yeah. And then I realized in talking to some friends that, man, every man, it's written for men. I always say it's rated R for men only. It's men that are real, and it's rated R because of stupid actions, carnal activities, and getting too close to the edge. So, but this is it. The picture says it all at the front. Someone said, "Why is a guy wearing a suit out there? He shouldn't be there." He said, "You're right, he shouldn't." And but we love the edge. It's invigorating. And for different ones of us, the edge is different things. Sometimes it's power. Sometimes it's a high, whether with some sort of chemical added. I realized I was addicted to dopamine when you get right down to it. That rush. It's just like, oh, I love that. But I've got a picture. We put it on the back, and it's this right here. And if you notice, it's a warning about the edge. And if you look at it, there's an innocent person at the bottom. Yeah. And it's not that the edge. It's not that I fell off the edge. I was pretty sure of my footing. The problem was the edge gave out under me.
Right.
And that's what collapsed. So that's another way to happen. And there's always an innocent person that gets hit by the shrapnel of our stupid choices, our family, our friends, or our employer or whatever, is how it works. And so this is kind of the story where I pull back the curtain and give people a snapshot without holding back. Every once in a while I'll look at part of it, or someone will tell me about someone. I'll be like, where was that? How did you know that? And they're like, it's in your book, man.
It's in your book, dude.
Why is that there? One of the hardest things.
We'll just say, Chris, you could probably never run for president.
No, I could, because I go, here you go, read that first. That's what I did. If you remember, honestly, when you hired me, I said, hey, by the way, this is my background, if that's okay. But one of the hardest things was to give this to my dad or to my adult daughter and say, this is me. But it's also the story of hope. It's a story that, I'm not a failure because I didn't stay fallen. I got up. I looked at what tripped me up, and I realized that I've got to walk different. And if that same thing is always a trip hazard, then I've got to build I like calling it a guardrail. If you're driving on the road and there's a bad cliff, and they want to keep you from going off as an extra precaution, people put guardrails to protect you. And so that's one of the things I realized is, look, there's some things that just the way I'm wired, man. And again, we're all different, but figure out, if you know what that weakness is, then put up a guardrail. And I mean, I don't travel alone. There's just a bunch of things I won't let happen.
Right.
In fact, it was so neat. I was doing a meeting a couple months ago, and the way it worked out, I always get my own room, but I didn't have my own room. I was rooming with some guy from Nashville that was in our company. And he walked in, and it was a neat testimony, because when I travel and I'm alone, it doesn't matter. I have a big 8x10 picture of my family on the nightstand of that hotel room.
Right.
And he looked at it and he goes, what's that all about? And I said, oh, I don't do any stupid things when I'm like out my kids and my wife looking at me. And he's like,
that's right,
dude, that's amazing. And it's just little things like that that make a big difference. And, it's making a statement to the people that clean your room, like, wow, there's his family, because I mean, to me, that's important. So I've learned over the years, and hopefully this book has been helpful to people. Tells them how to build a guardrail around their own life, and how to be honest and to run from the edge, because it's a dangerous place.
So I know there's several stories in there. What would be a good PG-13 one for you to share? Because there's a lot of compromising situations that type A, DI type personalities, people that are leaders, people that are motivators. They get out there and they flirt with the edge. What would be a good PG-13 story that you could share, and then take that story and talk about some of those guardrails that you've put in place in your life to keep that from happening? Make this a little more personable to the actual viewers that are watching this right now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a very visual person, and for me, this stinking cell phone, I was talking to someone today. I said, I am so glad I didn't have this when I was a 15-year-old boy.
Right.
Because it would have been bad,
Yeah.
And so, I might have texted an inappropriate thing to the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all made the mistake of texting, oh, that's for my wife. So the one time I got, we need what? What? And then he goes like, oh no, that is, you don't have to get milk from Publix. What is that about? Well, those are fine. But when it's not fine, which is what happened to me, it just was a colossal disaster. And, but I was also being careless. I mean, I always say this, that there's different reasons why people go to the edge. Sometimes it's just outright rebellion. I don't care. But sometimes it's curiosity. Wonder what this is all about.
Right.
I'm going to try this. I'm going to look that. I'm going to do that. And sometimes it's almost it's an innocence that backfires. And they're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? No one ever says, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'd like to be an unemployed bum, living maybe under a bridge would be awesome. If I
that would be a troll. Bums don't live under bridges, but trolls do.
Trolls, yeah. In fact, I'd like to lose my family, lose my reputation, and have people hiss at me when they throw. I mean, no one says that.
Not goals we make, right? Yeah.
Not goals we make, but it can happen. And so I was looking at it because sometimes you write and go, that's really good. I took the word guardrail and I actually made it, that's the formula for me to stay out of trouble in all areas.
Share that with us. What does
I can do it.
guardrail mean?
Yep. Guardrail is goals.
Mm-hmm.
What you want to avoid, you need to know. It's unique. Every one of us is unique. So that's the you. Accountability is A. It's where I am honest with people around, and I get close friends that ask me tough questions sometimes. R is for real, being real. I mean, get real about your shortcomings. D is deep, not just surface stuff. Dig in deep, get there. The R, next R, stands for relationships, and it goes both ways. Because sometimes I need to be that friend. And what I've learned is when I help others, I actually help myself. It's the weirdest thing. When I'm giving them advice, you know what I'm saying? I get advice. Yeah. And it's a strong thing. And I'm like, well, that's really good.
It's like the deepest, whenever I've been the deepest in Bible study or things like that, it's when I've had to lead a Bible school class at church.
Yeah.
And, and I think that's a personality thing. I think you and I both have very, very similar disc profile and personality.
Yeah.
And so we're in a D type of personality. You need to be doing things. So for us to do for ourselves, sometimes it has to be bound to something that we're doing for others. And then we kind of self-discover ourselves during the task of serving somebody else. And that's the way God made us. So that's for entrepreneurs and some of the people that are on this call right now, man, is that a nugget. You got to serve other people to sometimes crack your own shell.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, you said the word, you discover it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh gosh, that's huge. The A is action, take action on the things that you had pointed out. I is inspect, and that is afterwards. So you come to these conclusions, you're not done. You're inspecting on a regular basis.
Right.
Not just every year because it's New Year's, but I mean on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And then the last letter, L, is love. Love others, here you go, and yourself through this process. Cut yourself some slack, man. And there's times that I would almost feel, disqualified to help others. And then I realized maybe I'm even more qualified to help. If all the person has was success, it's scary. I don't know if I'd want to go into business with someone, all they've been is successful. Like I want some people that have had some serious bumps and bruises, because to me, I don't know about you, AC, but I've learned more through my failures, if you will, than my successes.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I hate it.
And you're much more relatable. If people think that you're on a pedestal and that you're perfect and you never stumble, then they don't see themselves ever reaching the heights you got to be almost look at people and say, look at how successful I am, regardless of the idiot I've been.
Kiss my ring. Oh yeah, that way.
Yeah. You know what? Like, kiss my ring. Yeah, for sure. No, it's you've got to be that R for real. Being real with people. When people go, oh man, AC, I can never do what you've done. I'm like, yeah, you can. It's even something as simple as right now, and I've talked about this for weeks now on the podcast. My quarantine project has been redoing my 1960 pickup truck. And it was already great, but it's kind of like remodeling a house. Remember my wife and I, she wanted to change out just one pantry in her kitchen and turn it into a dish pantry and add some cabinets. Then that turned into all the cabinets in the kitchen. And then, if we're going to redo the cabinets, we got to get rid of that nasty soffit. And if we're going to get rid of the soffit, we got to texture the ceilings. Well, if we're going to texture the ceilings in the kitchen, we might as well do it through the whole house. Well, if we're going to do that, we might as well do knockdown on the walls too. And hey, if we're going to do that, we might as well rip up all the carpet, put wood floors. And all of a sudden, a $3,000 cabinet turned into a $70,000 house remodel.
Let's push out this wall. I know what you're saying.
So I bought a $200 Crown Victoria front end for my truck.
Oh my God.
And so that turned into, well, it'd be a lot easier to put it in, if we remove the engine. And then, well, if we're going to remove the engine, we might as well take the body off the frame too, because I have to weld these boxes in, so I might as well repaint the frame. Well, if I'm going to redo the front end, I might as well redo the back end. If I'm going to redo the back end, the engine's out already. Now would be the opportune time to go ahead and put a new engine in it. And it's like,
my gosh. Yeah.
It just cascades because of our personality type. But you know what? I've had people posting on my responses to my Facebook post where I've been posting some of this stuff. Man, AC, I wish I could do that. I just don't have the technical aptitude for it and stuff like that. I'm like, dude,
Go out and buy an antique truck. You really can't screw it up that bad. You're going to
it's not that
learn so
complicated.
much. It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
Strip it down, research it, YouTube it. Look at all the videos out there, and then jump in and just do it. When you get done, you have a story to tell. And
I think people are afraid of failure, though. You know what I mean? Like
gosh.
if they try and they don't, I mean, they're paralyzed by what if I fail? And I go, and what if you do? I mean, you know, you've done the parallel stories of how many shots did, you know, Michael Jordan miss? More than he made, I'll tell you that.
Babe Ruth.
So, yeah, right. Who bats even 500? Nobody. So, and that's 50%, right? So stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. No, that's
So,
cool.
Yeah. So, you know, so you've got this book, The Edge. You've done that. And was that your first book, or was that your second book that you did? I think
Third.
you wrote before that. Your third.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I wrote a book called Growing Up Without Growing Old.
Yeah.
And that was a book about 5 different parallel levels of our life on a spiritual plane that directly parallel with our physical plane. A newborn, a toddler, a teenager, adult, and a mature adult. And the ultimate goal is to reproduce yourself better than you and leave a legacy.
Yeah. Leave a legacy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you wrote 3 books, and then you had this idea. You actually came to me. You said, AC, you know, you come in real frantic and everything else. You get me on the phone and everything. I want to have lunch with you. And I'm like, great, Chris, come on over. Let's do lunch. And you're like, I got this great idea. I got to share it with you. It's going to be the most incredible thing ever. I'm so excited about it. You know, but I want to bounce it off you first to make sure this can happen. And I'm like, cool, let's go have lunch. And I think we went over to the Cracker Barrel right around the corner from my office.
We did.
And you laid this whole thing out to me. And you're like, what do you think? And, you know, so talk about that conversation a little bit there, and why you presented it to me, and what was your mindset, and how did it get you to this wow factor project that we've both participated in. So let's talk about our bond that we have on that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm dyslexic. I used to pray to a dog, which is really weird. That's a bad joke. Okay.
Some of you will get that tomorrow.
But you know, I know that leaders are readers, and it's hard because reading's difficult for me. And I would thought, man, I wish I could. I wish something would wow me, something short and sweet that would inspire me and motivate and encourage me, maybe even smack me around a little bit. Something that I could factor into my life, both professionally and personally. And when I started looking at the dictionary and words, and I'd know every time somebody would talk, whether in church or a business thing, they would say something, and then they would define that word so we could all hug around it. That gets in the same page so we can understand where they're going. And then I just was like, wow. And because I was thinking, if we define a word wrong, we can go way, like I'll give you an example. The word success. If I define success as having a lot of money, then any way I get that money is cool. I could rob a bank. I could take it from your grandma, which is bad. Well, then you define the word define, and it means to come to an end. It means to set the boundaries. Well, that's pretty powerful. Also, like if that word define, I am defined wrong. You would say that's not a good definition. Success may be leaving a legacy for your kids, or spending time with your home, or being healthy, or whatever the situation is that you consider success.
But it's different to different people.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be. So, and then learning like word origins and that kind of stuff, it wowed me. The word decide, which isn't in any of the books, but it's 2 Latin words. D is away from or off, and side, well, other words that end in side: suicide, pesticide, homicide, genocide. Mm-hmm. They all have to do with death. So I learned that the word decide means to kill options. That was my wow. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And I'm thinking, what can we do now? Okay, so there's the definition.
And we've heard that before. You eliminate options until you settle on the one. Yeah.
That's it. You kill them. I mean, it's a death.
Kill them off.
You can't dig it up. If it's dead, nobody digs it up with a what-if shovel. You don't do that.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Then to create a practical step that's, you know, easy and practical. That how do you make good decisions then? So that's how I started it. And I was going to do it myself. These kind of clever ideas. And then I thought, wait a second, I'm well traveled. I've been around the world. I've been involved, as you said, in a lot of different levels of business. But I'm still this big. What if I got people that entrepreneurs and therapists and coaches and celebrities and, you know, and the list goes on and on and on. You know, military folks and I don't know, just that kind of thing. Entrepreneurs are different than a CEO of a large company, and let's just mix it all up. So then I created this tapestry of perspective, and it just turned into something. And now, of course, we've got dozens and dozens of people that have participated, gave a part of their hearts to help people around the world. And that's really the essence of Wow Factor. Well, now we're talking about Wow Factor 2.0, and gonna do it again this year, hopefully to come out around the December, and then people can use it as a start for 2021.
Yeah, what I love about it is it's really a simple read. So I equate this to, like, you know, in Christian circles, we talk about your first 40 days, and they got like a Bible study for your first 40 days as a Christian. This is a great book here, and I kind of tease. It's a good one to sit next to your toilet, you know, or to, you know, sit on the back porch or something like that. And you just literally, it's one word a week. It's 52 words from 52 influencers. It's actually 51 influencers, because I got to have 2 words because I was the first one to sign up. But it's great because you can literally just take one word a week, and it can really impact your life. And you know, I went ahead and I got the big package on this. I went with the custom dust cover here with
look at that.
on it. I know, it looks
way
great.
Better than mine. Way
really
better
good.
than mine.
And I got the custom dust cover on here. It says, you know, featuring AC Lockyer on it. I'm a contributing author. The great thing about this is it gets a group of people together, a group of influencers to work on a project together. And many of the people that we're interviewing on the podcast here, I was introduced to through this book. We call them our fellow wowzers, and you've coined us as wowzers. Yes. And but it's really, really great. And so I purchased a bunch of these books, and literally I'm not worried about selling them. I give them to people, because this has been such a great calling card, such a great business card, something to just give people, to bless people with. And you're right, readers are leaders, and you know, and I'm trying to influence fledgling entrepreneurs, and I'm trying to teach them the habit of reading and going to other wells, other sources of inspiration, and drawing from those, because your individual personal well goes dry very, very quick.
If you're giving
from you.
If you're giving, you're right.
And so this is real easy for people. They can take a word a week. In a year, they've read this book. Hopefully by December, January, the next one will be out. So as everybody finishes this one, they can roll right into the next one. But it's great. So you got to have a word in your own book. So what was your word, Chris?
My word was lead. And you know what? It was a little bit intimidating, because over 15,000 books, not pages, books have been written on leadership. What am I going to say that hasn't been said?
Right.
Except a lot, because never seen it. Not that everything has to be unique, but it does you have to own it. You know, if you're going to share it, own it. And so I just literally looked up the word lead in the dictionary. I mean, that's how we do. So each chapter, we start out by defining a word and actually use, looking for the word lead. There it is, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Oh, I missed it. But actually look at the word and look at the definition. And so, you want me to read the definition of lead? Because it's not what people think.
Because in some cases, these influencers, these business leaders have been able to, I lost the word. So what happens when you turn 50? Redefine the word. Yeah. So you did just that. You put an interesting spin on it. So yes, please read your definition of lead.
I'll do it. I'm gonna give the noun first, even though the verb starts. The noun is what most of us are used to. It's the initiative and an action, an example for others to follow, or a position of advantage in a contest. In other words, first place. And so most people are noun leaders. In fact, that they're there, and they kind of say, "Hey, see, if you want what I have and you want to do what I do, come on, I'm here. Get you some." That's how it works. Okay. But it's 5:30 in the morning several months ago. ago, I'm walking and I see the verb leader, and I tell you, I had a wow moment. And here's what my goodness, here's what a verb leader is. Cause a person or animal to go with by holding them by the hand, a halter, a rope, while moving forward. That's part one. And part two is be a route or means of access to a particular place in a particular direction. And the first thing that stood out to me, I said, my goodness, there's a profound energy that happens. If I'm a verb leader, I cause you. I don't make you, I don't force you, but something happens that is a motivation to you that encourages you. It gives you a nudge. I cause you to do something. Okay. The next thing I realized is by holding them, if it's a person, by the hand. And I thought that's a sense of vulnerability. If a verb leader, I have to get close enough to you and allow you to get close enough to me. You're going to see my imperfections, kind of like the edge, right? You're going to see. And then I realized, wow, the halter or rope was a good idea. An 80-pound girl, a 60-pound girl could move a big horse.
A 1,500-pound bull.
Yeah, because they and it's, you know what they call it? They're leading that animal.
Well, they actually call the rope a lead. They call it a lead. They do.
Yes. Exactly how this is. But then I thought about training our kids. You know, my little daughter, she just turned 18 months old, and she's walking. Well, when she wasn't, there's a process to teach someone to walk. And I want to directly correlate it with leadership. I think what happens a lot of times, and this is the difference between pushing and pulling. Mm-hmm. All right? Most people are push leaders. Go get it. Go do it. You go. And here's what I realized. That's not the definition of leadership. Right. The definition of leadership, if I'm holding you by the hand or the halter or the rope, you can't push that person. You can only pull them. And then it just, again, wowed me. Amazing. I'm thinking, wow, I can push you where I've never been, but I can't pull you where I'm not. Right. I can control your direction and your speed when I pull you, but I can't when I push you. Isn't that powerful? I was like, oh my goodness. We teach our kids, we pull them toward, come on, you can do it. Let's go. It'll be awesome. Pulling the rope. Well, that got me into this whole thing about, that's what I do. And what's the end? While moving you forward. Yes. So there's a movement. So my energy, because we're together, something happens and I pull you to a place you never could have gotten on your own. And that's the beauty of soft wash systems and everything you're involved in is you don't just say, hey, go get it. I hope you make it. I hope you don't kill the plants and the neighbor's dog. No, you're like, no, we're going to help you. We're going to show you. I'm going to lead you. Why? Because I'm going to do it first, and I'm going to pull you up, and I'm going to show you, and we're going to do it together. To me, that's true leadership. That's a verb leader. Powerful.
Yeah. And back where I got a lot of my leadership training early on is in an organization called the Future Farmers of America. And it's what saved me and kept me in high school. I was ready to drop out at 16 years old. My dad was a high school dropout, very successful, multi-million-dollar producing millionaire entrepreneur, my dad. I'm a third-generation service business entrepreneur. I'd drop out like my dad at 16. Now, he had to because his dad was sick and dying. He had to take over the family business. But I figured I didn't see any value in high school. And then I got I wanted to drop a class, and the only class that was left was Introduction to Horticulture 1. And so I went, I'm a metalhead. Maybe I'll learn how to grow pot or something. I'll go to Horticulture 1. Okay? And so I went there and literally landed at that class, transferred into that class, and they were having officer elections for the Future Farmers of America. And the instructor, got me to join the FFA, and I literally joined the FFA. The next week we're having a meeting electing officers. I get elected an officer, and I'm like, holy my goodness, now I got to actually do something. And I took it pretty seriously. And so I'm at one of their leadership training things. I remember the guy that was speaking took out a rope and laid it on a table. And he laid this rope, could have been a lead.
Yeah, it could have been.
Could have been a lead. And he laid it out on the table, and he said, if you're the type of leader just pushes people, and he got on one end of that rope and started pushing the rope.
Wow.
The rope
never
just
shared this story with me.
Up and goes all different ways, and it gets very disorganized very quickly. And for a short period of time, it looks like things are going well until the train wreck happens. And he said, but if you're the type of leader that grabs the lead and gets out in front of
the animal or the person or whatever, and they're on one end holding it, okay, or they're bridled to it, and you're on the other end. When you pull the rope and you get out in front of it, it stays perfectly in line and everything falls into place behind you. People only, for lack of a better term, I don't want to say fall into place because people are like, I don't want to follow a leader, just wants me to fall into place.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is people follow leaders that get out front and lead. Does that mean you have to do all the work? I hate the picture of, the guy sitting on top of the chariot and the people in the chariot.
Yeah.
In the next picture, it says that's false leader. The next picture is the guy actually pulling the chariot with them.
Yeah.
I think that's a little false because you do get to a point as a leader that you have a team and you have employees and you have, team members and people in your organization and everything else. And sometimes if you get down and participate in the pulling, honestly, sometimes you get in the way. So some people just need to be visionaries and be leaders and set the pace and, and say, this is the direction we're going to go, and then enable their team to just go do it, not micromanage them. But it is very interesting that if you push the rope, it bunches up. If you pull the rope, it stays in line. And when you talk about the definition, the verb of a lead, a leader leads the animal.
I want to be a verb leader.
Well, they call that thing, that rope that you're holding, it's actually called the lead.
I know, it's cool. Well, and that's what's weird about our language is, L-E-A-D is the word lead, but it's also the word lead.
Right.
You think about, a pencil lead, right? And then I thought, I wonder what the definition of that is. So I checked it out. The word pencil lead says, because of what it's made of, it leaves a mark.
Wow.
And then I go again, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what leadership is. Because of what we're made of, AC, we leave a mark. We do. And it's like, oh my gosh. And I got kind of corny. I thought, because I lead, then I've led, which means I left a mark in past tense. And that is what we do. Sometimes it's not that good of a mark. Sometimes, but it's there. And even when I was a racer, you can erase the mark, but we're talking, sometimes there's still an imprint. You've left a mark on the person, even though you've taken the color out. It's still there. But
that's even sometimes leaders do bad things, or bad things happen, or they're misguided themselves. And they left a bad mark. Even when you take that eraser and you erase it, you may have removed some of the mark, but the indentation of the mark is still there. The friction or the texture of using the eraser is still there. And that's where you change people. As a leader, you change people for the good, and sometimes you change people for the bad. And you've got to be comfortable with the fact that not everybody you touch in your life are going to turn out the way, or that situation is not going to turn out the way that you had hoped it would turn out. Yeah. That shouldn't discourage you from still making an impact in other people's lives and moving forward as a leader. So show me that pencil. Show me, you actually have special pencils made.
Yeah, I had pencils made. So it says lead, make your mark, and then it says,
you have to move over more, Chris. We can't see it. Move over more.
There you go. Is that better? Oh,
that's better. Yeah.
I can see it. What are you talking about? Leave a mark. And then that's the other thing, too, is here's the key. 2 parts challenge to us.
Yeah.
Whose hand are you holding that you're holding and pulling? Maybe as a parent, it's a child. That's good.
Right.
But as a business leader and one of the owners potentially of a soft wash systems certified company, you're going to pull some people up. I mean, I watched what you did. It's fun to see, look, guys, to look back these almost 5 years and how the people that at that time were just getting into business, they were wondering if they could afford that skid, now have 5 trucks. And they have multiple cities and they have staffs, and now they're training other people. And that's the part. So that's where it's like, you're exactly doing that. You're a verb leader. You're pulling these people. You're leaving a mark. You're holding someone by hand. But then there's this question. Who's holding your hand? Because we never get to a place that, well,
that goes into
I need someone to guide me.
It's because of what you're made of, you leave a mark. Well,
yes.
What you're made of is what comes in through your eyes, what comes in through your ears, what do you eat, do you exercise, You know, I'm not a big exerciser, but I get my 10,000 steps every day. I watch that.
Right.
I watch my diet. I'm the diabetic. I have to worry about that. I watch what goes in my eyes. I watch what goes in my ears. There are people I have blocked on my Facebook because they're negative people. You know, there's things I've taken out of my life. I've made decisions to make sure what I'm made of leaves a mark and leaves a positive mark.
Yeah.
And that's really, really what you got to do. All right, so kind of wrapping this up now. We're rounding the corner here, the last 10 minutes of this podcast. Of course, we all know right now we're in this COVID-19 thing.
I heard about that.
Many states, about 22 states, are coming out of quarantine, letting people get back to work, letting people go back to limited to restaurants and some smaller social gatherings and all. But our world, the whole world, was really upturned from this, and we're learning a lot of valuable lessons, making a lot of shifts in our life. What has been some of the unique perspectives you've gotten out of this? Because you're in sales. I mean, obviously your sales have been your ability to reach out. We did have an issue. And meet with people's been impacted. There's been great positive things that have come out of this.
Yes.
Chris Gingrasso, or just Gingrasso.
Well, let's define the word pandemic, because I didn't know what it meant. I thought it was a combination word of pandemonium and epidemic. No, it actually
means the world, right?
Yeah, it means all people.
All people.
That's really the word, all people. It affects everyone. And so that is what we're having. And that, I guess, is what's so unique to this is, I have friends in other countries, they're going through it. I mean, unless you're with Sweden, your life has been massively changed and transitioned. And I think it's kind of like there's an old saying. I mean, I've got coffee in here, but if I dump it out, if I pour it out, if I squeeze it, if I break it, you're going to see what's in it. And that's kind of what I see happening here is there were businesses that were just doing it. Look, we just finished, we're 51 years old, you understand. We just finished the greatest quarter in the history of our company.
Right.
Like, what just happened? And all of a sudden, bam, and you start, whoa, and you got to reevaluate. And a lot of rewords came out, rewire, refocus, rethink, and start reviewing to figure out what response you want to get using RE words, and I think what I realized is there's some things I miss. I'm very personable. I miss, today was the first day that I had lunch with someone.
Wow.
And not lunch, but breakfast. And I mean, it was like so important. And we met, and I'm staring at him. We did it for 5 years. I have a breakfast with this guy. And we hadn't for 6 weeks. It was really big. And I thought, I hate this. And so some of this is to say, I think it's going to help us reevaluate what's important to us.
Right.
I realized how much I've appreciated my wife. Look, we had to homeschool our kids. You understand? And the first was probably day 4. Bro, she walked in the office. She goes, I cannot do this. And I'm thinking, how many kids do we have, honey? She goes, now? I'm like, yes, right now. Because I thought maybe she gave one away. Hey, she was trading toilet paper for kids. It's terrifying, But then you get used to it and you get in that rhythm and you get in that routine, and all of a sudden you go, hey, we can do this. And I think what it's done, it feels almost like a Control-Alt-Delete. I posted one day on social media saying, that's kind of what's happened, is when you spin and just kind of going, I don't know what to do, hit Control-Alt-Delete, and everything, and your initial operating system reboots. And it's like it's a cleansing of the world. So as bad as it is, and there's been death, I've had some friends that were sick on ventilators. I got a guy told me today, I know nobody. I'm like, well, then you're fortunate. I do know some people that have had it. And I know one person that did pass. Now, here's the thing. They had some other extra challenges in their life.
Sure.
As this just didn't help. But for me, it's really helped me evaluate things and kind of reprioritize things. You know what I mean? And it's been, I've been able to have more time and rest more and work on me more. And I've enjoyed it, actually. Today, I just started working less this week. Because the governor's allowed us to go. So I started traveling. I'm in a different city every week. And I started, meeting with people 6 feet away, some with a mask, depending on how they are. And I realized it's a lot of work. I think I'm used to sitting in my jammies all day, just doing work. And I'm like, I got to get dressed and shave, dang, But no,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I think we're going to come out of this stronger, and realize how dependent we are with each other and how much we need each other. And there's some crazy things happening in politics. There's some crazy things happening with just mean people, hoarding and that kind of stuff. I think it's in crisis where we see what we're made of. And
Right.
I'm realizing that I really like my family. I really like my wife, and the fact that she's amazing. And so that's the thing. Find the good, and I guess someone posted. My wife this morning, she posted all these things, and she just kept saying, "Be kind," because these are hard times. I mean, there's some people that lost their jobs, man. Some people on, that they're not seeing their spouses because they're an ER nurse or something, and they haven't hugged them for 6 weeks. These are real things. Gosh, crazy.
It's crazy.
God bless. I know.
Yeah, no, I mean, that it really changes your perspective. And some of us will learn from this, and it, it's like the Depression back in the 30s changed people. And when you meet somebody that grew up through that, like I remember my wife's grandmother, my wife would go and take a bath in the bathtub, and she'd say, "Don't pull the cork on the tub. I'm going to reuse your water." And it's like,
yeah, why are we doing that?
And
gotta boil some potatoes. Let me get some.
Yeah, or they would wash their plastic bags and hang their plastic bags up to dry, to save money. And you were like, "That's weird. That I would never do that." And things start to change. Then all of a sudden toilet paper becomes the new currency. But I remember, you said something that really ringed out to me. You said that your company had the best quarter ever in the history of its business.
Yeah.
So did mine. Did mine this first quarter of the year. Even with the decline already hitting us in March, we still had our best quarter ever in business. I gave out, because we do profit sharing at our company. Yeah. I gave out, I walked around the day before we were going, March 31st, April 1st, we had our monthly meetings. We had profit. We were leaving a quarter. I walked around the first day the state of Florida was going into quarantine and dropped profit checks off of my employees' desks.
That's awesome.
Okay, because we had.
By the way, I don't think you did that when I was with you. I don't.
I was a little poor.
I missed that.
You didn't hang out, man. You left.
Oh no.
You got a much better offer than I could give you. Yeah. No, you left with my grace for sure.
Oh, yes.
But the last time this happened to me, I remember back in 2010, and actually it's 2009. 2010 was when I closed my last business, TerraClean. Actually sold it off to somebody, got out of the business, wiped my hands of it, and said, "I'm out of here." 2009, first quarter of 2009 was my best quarter ever in business. It was just like, it was huge. And then the second quarter of 2009, because the rest of the country was already hurting, but Florida was still doing pretty good. Second quarter of 2009, it's like somebody came in and kicked the chair out from under us.
Yeah.
Just like happened now. But the last time I had every vehicle we had a payment on it. Okay. Yeah. I was sending my kids through private Christian schools at $2,500 a month. I had a whole nother mortgage basically I was paying. Yeah. I had credit card debt. I had an open line of credit with my business. I was factoring all of my receivables, and I was living paycheck to paycheck, but just millions of dollars at a time. Yeah. And, and I learned from that this time when this happened, I had debt-free companies with reserves in the bank, with sitting around waiting for bills to come in so that we could pay them. Yes. And it was a different perspective. So in my case, I'm old enough now. Back when I went through it the first time, I was 40. The second time, almost 10 years later, the second time I went through it, I'm 50. 10 years gives you a lot of perspective. And some of the people on this call haven't been old enough to go through something like this yet. And this was your first time going through it. And you were caught completely unprepared for this. We all think the merry-go-round's never going to stop turning.
And this time, not only did it stop turning, it got hit by a bus and it got tilted over on the side.
Yeah.
And while we were still on it. So you will change. You will make adjustments. You will start to look at debt differently. You'll handle your money differently. You'll treat your employees differently. Your leadership will change. Just everything about you is going to change from this. And it's not bad. We still live in a free country. Nobody's going to put you in jail. Okay. I mean, yeah, I lost my house 10 years ago. Okay. They still let me live in it. I mean, nothing really happened to me bad. And so, when I look at everybody, I say, listen, guys, this too will pass. It's a storm. And you said before we had this call here, we're not all on the same ship. We can't say that we're all on the same boat.
We're all on the same boat. You know how they say that?
You're not in the same boat as me. My perspective is different from your perspective. I'm going through this storm differently than you are. How it's affecting me is different than it's affecting you. We can't take things for granted. We're all going through the same storm. Some of us are on big, gigantic ships. Some of us are on small ones. Some people are on big ships, but they got no food in the galley. And they're all sitting around this big ship, safe, but starving to death. Some people can't see their families. You talked about the person that works in the ER, ER nurse that hasn't hugged their family for 6 weeks because they don't want to bring the coronavirus home. It changes you. So, my advice to people is let this change you. Let it change you because it will be for the better. Human beings generally don't make changes until bad stuff happens. Let this wash over you. Let it change you. Let it make positive changes in you so that you move on from this different but better. What would you recommend? What's your big takeaway that you would look deep into the screen right now, look at the people that are the viewers on here and say, hey, this is what you need to take away from this?
Well, I think that's it. What do I need to add and what do I need to take away? There's some things I need to stop doing that were absolutely a waste of energy, time, resources, or whatever. And I'm like, I guess those weren't as important as I thought they were. And then there's other things, whatever that is to you, for me, I realized, in fact, I found myself, I'll confess, the first couple of days, because I'm not into my office. I'm traveling a different city every day. Right. And I started in my office. Next thing I know, my wife's like, Chris, you're there from 8 until 5. What are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. One day I didn't eat lunch. I was just so consumed. I'm thinking, what is wrong with me? Of course, I couldn't move. Right. I'm not used to sitting in a chair that long. I'm like, oh gosh. And I thought, okay, stop. And I realized it's okay to walk around. It's okay to, you know what? I'm going to go swimming with the boys. My pool's right out there. I can see it. I think I'm going to go swimming with the boys. And you know what? To do it and not feel guilty. So take those moments, make memories with your kids or whatever's important to the people watching. I think that's what I've done is I've realized there's some things that I don't need to do anymore. And there's some new things that I do need to do. And it's just different for each person. But I'm better for this. I am telling you right now, I'm better for going through what I already did. I'm thankful for that.
Same here. When you get back away from something, certainly the first few days are frustrating. I remember being mad. I went through all the stages of mourning on this whole thing. And but then when you get back away from it, you start going, man, this was good. Why am I stressing out? I should just life's good. We're all blessed. My business is half as much as it was, but it's just as profitable as it was. We won't skip a beat because we were responsible and we were prepared and we have a good business model and stuff like that. And I get a lot of time. I've gotten an incredible amount of time to create content, do more education.
Me too. Yes.
Talk to them on the phone. Things I could have never done. I remember back when I was unemployed and TerraClean was failing, and I had to sell that off and get rid of it and walk away from it. By the time I washed my hands and was done, I had $250 left to my name. And it was such an incredible time in my life when I was my wife's dishwasher. She had a catering company, and my only job I had at the moment was washing dishes for my wife. I got so much done then. And so right now, if you haven't already started getting things off your to-do list.
Yeah, there you go.
We've been blessed with a wonderful time here.
I agree.
It took a bug, a virus, to get us to all slow down and you evaluate what are the important things in life.
I agree. I feel purged. I really do. It's going to be okay. Now there are some people that weren't ready, and I hate that for them. But you know what? I've been able to help some of those folks. We've been able to help some of those folks, and so it's good to be been there, done that. Got a T-shirt, looked a little different, but you're right. I've fallen enough, and I've gotten up enough, and now I'm much more stable.
So Chris, if anybody wants to reach out to you, how might they get in touch with you?
Well, I mean, they can connect with me on LinkedIn. They can connect with me on Facebook. We can go to wowfactor.live and look at all their stuff there as we continue to grow. But that's it. That'd be awesome. All the information's there. And, just thank you so much for an opportunity to have this conversation. I don't see a fire in the background. You used to have a fire. Now you got.
Well, yeah, we were calling it the fireside chat because it was really during the kind of height of the hysteria, the COVID-19 mess. And and so we're kind of done with the fireside chats. We're just elevating this here to a professional business guide weekly pod that we're doing to create content and help people out. But hey, listen, if you're listening to this call right now and something that Chris has said is really spoken to you and got you thinking, or anything that I've said, listen, you can reach Chris at his contact information he just gave. We'll put a little slide up at the end of this podcast tonight so that you can go ahead and reach out to Chris if you but also to, hey guys, you know how to contact me, and my information is on this podcast too as well. If you're struggling, if you need advice, if you need somebody to talk to, if you just need an encouraging phone call, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm very, very available on Facebook at AC Lockyer, on Twitter at ProBizGuide, and certainly you can find me if you just Google me. All my information's out there. It's easy to get in touch with me. Just ask my wife. She's always ticked off on a Sunday afternoon when I'm coaching somebody from the couch that's called me on my phone. But we're here for you. We're available for you. We really want to see you thrive out there and have the life that God intended for you to have. Not to struggle, but to thrive. So, hey guys, thank you so much. Chris, thank you so much. You're always a great call, man. You're always so encouraging. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.